You have been mulching the same bare spots every single spring for years. Bags of mulch, hours of work. By August it has faded and the weeds are back anyway. Same result, same cost, same frustration. Here is what experienced gardeners figured out a long time ago. Mulch is a temporary fix. A living ground cover is a permanent solution. The right ground cover planted in June fills those bare spots, crowds out weeds permanently, and spreads further every season without you doing a thing. No replanting, no rebuying. June is the window because warm soil in early summer gives fast-spreading varieties the exact conditions they need to root aggressively before fall arrives. Today, I'm giving you 9 of the best, chosen for how fast they spread, how little they ask, and how completely they solve the bare ground problem. Plant number 5 works where almost nothing else will. Stay with me. Subscribe CTA, 1 minute to 1 minute 15. If you are not subscribed yet, do it right now. Every week I put out content exactly like this. Practical, specific gardening information built for real yards and real schedules. Hit that button. Now. Plant number 1. Creeping thyme. The first plant is one of the most satisfying ground covers you will ever put in the ground, because it solves 3 problems at once: bare ground, weeds between stepping stones, and a garden that looks unfinished no matter what you do. That plant is creeping thyme, Thymus serpillum. June planting gives creeping thyme warm soil that accelerates root establishment and triggers the lateral stem growth, driving its spread. A single plant spreads 12 to 18 inches per season through horizontal stem extension and self-layering. Stems root where they contact soil, creating new anchor points continuously outward. Over 2 seasons, multiple plants merge into a seamless mat. That mat is dense enough to block weed germination. Weed seeds need light and loose soil. A mature creeping thyme mat denies both. The primary mechanical reason ground covers permanently outperform mulch. Beyond weed control, creeping thyme blooms in a carpet of tiny pink to purple flowers in late spring to early summer that attract bees in enormous numbers. The foliage is fragrant and releases scent when brushed or walked on lightly. It handles foot traffic better than most ground covers, making it specifically valuable between stepping stones and along pathways. Drought-tolerant once established, deer-resistant, requires almost no maintenance beyond an occasional shear after bloom to keep it compact. Plant 2. Ajuga. The second plant fills shaded areas faster than almost any other ground cover available, and it does it with a visual drama that most shade plants cannot match. That plant is Ajuga. Ajuga reptans, also called bugleweed. Ajuga spreads through stolons, horizontal stems rooting at intervals and establishing new plants continuously outward. In good conditions, a single plant produces offshoots 6 to 12 inches away in one season. Plant 5 to 7 in June, and by the following spring, you have a solid mat covering the entire area between them. The foliage is the design asset: deep bronze purple, chocolate brown, burgundy, and variegated forms, creating dramatic color contrast where most shade plants offer only green. Spring brings short spikes of bright blue-purple flowers covering the mat completely. First season tip: keep consistently moist. After establishment, it handles drought well, but that first summer watering pays back in significantly faster spread. One honest note: Ajuga can spread into lawn areas. Plant it in defined beds with a physical edging barrier or in contained areas like slopes and spaces under trees where lawn is not a concern. Plant 3. Creeping Jenny. The third plant is the fastest spreader on this list in moist conditions, and it solves a problem that most ground covers cannot handle at all: wet areas, low spots, poorly drained corners where the soil stays consistently damp, and most plants simply rot, That plant is creeping jenny. Lysimachia numularia. Creeping jenny spreads through trailing stems that root at every node. In moist conditions, a single plant covers several square feet in one growing season. The golden variety, Lysimachia numularia aurea, adds bright chartreuse gold foliage that illuminates wet shaded areas with colour nothing else provides. June planted in consistently moist soil establishes and begins spreading within weeks. Small yellow flowers appear along trailing stems through summer. Foliage turns golden bronze in fall. It tolerates standing water for short periods. One of the only ornamental ground covers that performs in rain garden edges and low spots experiencing seasonal flooding. One note: in ideal, moist conditions, creeping jenny spreads enthusiastically. In contained beds, it is easily managed by pulling back stems at the edges. Give it a challenging wet spot and it will fill it completely within 2 seasons. Plant 4. Liriope. The fourth plant solves the problem that defeats more home gardeners than almost anything else in landscaping. Dry shade under large trees, where the soil is compacted, root-choked and bone-dry within days of any rainfall, where virtually nothing grows. That plant is Liriope, Liriope muscari, also called lily turf. Liriope spreads through slow but relentless clump expansion, widening each season until individual plants merge into a dense, weed-suppressing mat. It does not spread explosively. It spreads with a persistence that covers ground completely and holds it permanently. June planting accelerates root establishment in warm soil, developing the dense, fibrous system that makes Liriope so drought-tolerant in dry shade, where irrigation is difficult or impossible. Dark, strappy arching foliage stays attractive all season. Late summer brings spikes of purple or white flowers. Evergreen in mild climates through winter. For the impossible spots, under dense canopy trees, along north-facing dry slopes in root-compacted areas where nothing else has survived, Liriope is the answer that holds. Plant 5. Ice plant. Plant number 5 works in conditions where almost nothing else will. And I told you at the beginning to wait for this one. Rocky slopes, gravel gardens, south-facing banks baking in full sun, sandy soil that drains so fast that most plants are in drought stress within 48 hours of any rain. That plant is ice plant, Delosperma cooperi. Ice plant stores water in thick, fleshy leaves, thriving in dry, fast-draining, high-heat conditions that eliminate most other options. It spreads through lateral stem extension, rooting as it goes, covering ground in a dense, succulent mat, impenetrable to weed germination. June is the ideal window specifically because ice plant is a warm season plant that establishes most aggressively in high soil temperatures. June, planted in full sun, begins spreading within weeks and covers substantial ground before season end. The flowers are the payoff. Brilliant magenta-pink daisy-like blooms so dense in summer that the foliage disappears beneath them. Colour intensity in full sun is almost shocking. Blooms continue across the entire summer. Hardy in zones 5 through 9. Full sun only. Excellent drainage essential. It will not survive wet or clay soil. Zero irrigation required once established. Plant 6. Pachysandra. The 6th plant is the classic American solution to one of the most common landscaping problems in the country, and it earns that reputation through genuine performance rather than marketing. Dense, dry shade under established trees. The kind of shade where even hostas struggle, where the light levels are genuinely low and the root competition from the tree above removes moisture and nutrients faster than most plants can compensate. That plant is Pachysandra. Pachysandra terminalis. Pachysandra spreads through underground rhizomes, travelling beneath the soil surface and sending up new shoots at intervals. This below-ground mechanism navigates tree roots and compacted soil that blocks above-ground stolons, Slow in its first season, establishing the underground network, it accelerates in years 2 and 3, sending up new shoots across a widening area until coverage is complete. Dark, glossy, whorled foliage maximizes light capture in low-light conditions, evergreen through winter, year-round weed suppression that deciduous ground covers cannot match, small white flowers in early spring before tree canopies close. June planting establishes the rhizome network during warm months, giving it a head start on the spreading that begins in earnest in year 2. 6 plants in. The next 3 include the fastest spreading sunlover on this entire list, a ground cover that blooms so heavily in spring the foliage disappears completely, and one that handles both full sun and deep shade. The rarest combination in ground cover gardening. Stay with me. Plant 7, Creeping Phlox. The 7th plant delivers the most dramatic visual payoff of any ground cover on this list, and it does it once a year in a way that makes people stop their cars. That plant is Creeping Phlox, Phlox subulata. In spring, Creeping Phlox produces such a dense carpet of flowers, hot pink, magenta, purple, white, and lavender, that the foliage completely disappears beneath them. It cascades over rocks, spills over retaining walls, and floods slopes with colour in a way that looks like a professional installation. The actual maintenance after establishment is a light shear after bloom to keep it compact. That is the entire job description. Creeping Phlox spreads through lateral stem extension and self-layering, stems root at soil contact points and push outward continuously. June planted in full sun begins lateral expansion before the end of its first season. After bloom, it becomes a neat evergreen mat of fine needle-like foliage, providing weed suppression and soil holding through winter when most flowering ground covers have died back. On slopes, it prevents erosion during the period when bare ground is most vulnerable. Plant on slopes, along retaining wall tops, between stepping stones, or in rock gardens. Plant 8, Vinca minor. The 8th plant is the fastest spreader on this list in average garden conditions, and the one experienced gardeners reach for when they need a large area covered quickly with minimal investment. That plant is Vinca minor, also called periwinkle. Vinca minor spreads through above-ground trailing stems, rooting at nodes, and underground rhizomes, sending up new shoots, working from both surfaces simultaneously. That dual mechanism is why it covers ground faster than most options in average conditions. June-planted Vinca produces visible spread within weeks. Small, dark, glossy evergreen foliage provides year-round weed suppression. Spring brings small lavender-blue pinwheel flowers across the entire mat, tolerates part shade to full shade, average to dry soil, and erosion-prone slopes. Check invasive status in your state before planting. Classified as invasive in parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Midwest near natural areas. One honest note, Vinca minor is classified as invasive in some states, particularly in the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the Midwest where it escapes into natural areas. Check your state's invasive species list before planting, particularly if you garden near woodlands or natural areas. Plant 9, Sweet Woodruff. The 9th plant handles a condition that almost nothing else on this list addresses, and it does it with a delicacy and charm that makes it one of the most beloved woodland garden plants in American horticulture. Full shade, deep shade, the kind of shade under a dense, deciduous canopy where light levels are genuinely low for the majority of the growing season. And it also handles full sun. That dual adaptability, full shade to full sun, is the rarest combination in ground cover gardening and the reason Sweet Woodruff earns the final spot on this list. That plant is Sweet Woodruff, Galium odoratum. Sweet Woodruff spreads through underground rhizomes and self-seeding simultaneously. creating a lacy, delicate mat of whorled, star-shaped leaves unlike the texture of any other ground cover on this list. Soft, fine, charming foliage that looks like it belongs in a florist arrangement rather than a garden. In spring, it covers itself in tiny white star-shaped flowers, with a sweet vanilla hay fragrance that intensifies when brushed. First season spread is modest as it establishes its rhizome network. By year 3, a planting typically fills its designated area completely. Non-toxic, deer-resistant, requires virtually no maintenance once established. June planting. Why timing matters. Ground cover establishment is driven by root development. Roots develop fastest in warm soil. June soil temperatures maximize root growth rate, giving each plant 6 to 8 weeks of warm establishment before full cool down. The same plant in cool spring soil takes longer to root, enters winter with a weaker system, and spreads less in its second season. June planting for fast-spreading ground covers is not just acceptable, it is often the optimal window. Water consistently for the first 4 to 6 weeks. After that, most of these plants become largely self-sufficient. Bare ground is not a permanent condition, it is a temporary one, and you have been solving it temporarily with mulch every single year. Every plant on this list is a one-time investment that pays back in permanent coverage, expanding ground every season, and the end of the mulch cycle entirely. Pick 2. Match them to your specific problem spots. Sun or shade, wet or dry, slope or flat, foot traffic or no traffic. Plant them in June, water them through their first summer, and then watch what happens in year 2 when they start spreading in earnest. The bare patches you have been looking at for years will not survive what you are about to plant. If this gave you the solution to even one problem spot in your yard, subscribe right now. Every week I put out content exactly like this, practical and specific. Hit the bell, drop a comment below, tell me which problem spot you are solving first and which plant you are using. I read everyone. See you in the next one.